someone just told us that the Ford CEO, Jim Farley's brother, was the late Chris Farley.
Really?
Yep. And here, in fact, is that Ford CEO, Jim Farley, on with CNBC's Phil Lebeau. Yeah, you can see it.
You can see the resemblance. That's
You can
funny.
see it a little bit.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah. And this is, and you know what's interesting about this? And I've noticed this. They are using the UAW's request for a 40% increase, which incidentally was basically almost like a retroactive raise based upon all the hits that the UAW took in the wake of the financial crisis to help sustain the auto industry, and never, ever was made whole on those sacrifices, even though the car companies were made whole 5 times over.
And they promised to do so. This was like the cost of living adjustment part,
yes.
right?
And I will say this too, like, do not kid yourself in terms of like how much the UAW helped not only the companies that were in the worst shape, but if one or two of the U.S. Car manufacturing companies go under, it affects the third because they share their suppliers, and so if the UAW helped out the entire industry, basically kept it alive. Here is Ford CEO Jim Farley down by the river.
Quickly put in some perspective, the offer that they have, what they're demanding relative to where you are right now, how much damage would that do to the bottom line if you were to say, sure, we'll give you 40%?
If we signed up for the UAW's request, instead of making money and distributing $75,000 in profit sharing in the last 10 years, we would have lost $15 billion and gone bankrupt by now. The average pay would be nearly $300,000 fully fringed for a 4-day work week. There is no way.
Per employee, per UAW employee.
Yeah, this is our fully tenured school teacher in the U.S. makes $66,000. Someone from the military or fireman makes mid-50,000. This is 4, 5 times, 6 times what they make. There's no way we can be sustainable as a company. That's why we put our proposal.
Pause it. I find it, I mean, aside from him also, first of all, we should also say that the last offer on the table by the UAW was not 40%, it was 36%. They had already negotiated that down and made that counteroffer. But I find it interesting that he is making this comparison, aside from the fact that we should be paying teachers more, that he makes this comparison of workers who are generating billions of dollars of profit for people like him with government workers.
Yeah.
Who don't have, or not, there's nobody who's generating all this profit from it. I mean, it's just interesting choice of like who he's trying to, pit against each other.
He made like $20 million in stock buybacks, if I'm not mistaken.
I would be shocked if it was anything less. And like he's got to spend like a couple of minutes going like, hey, with his PR people, what's the least ostentatious sport coat I can wear?
Yeah.
To make it, sort of a little bit less obvious.
Anti-union guy in a sport coat. You could sing into that Farley tune. Anyway.
Look, you want us to choose bankruptcy over supporting our workers? Here's our proposal. Let's work through this. We've heard nothing.
There was a story in Bloomberg about how badly these guys miscalculated with Sean Fain and with the UAW. And we see this story over and over again. I think this is the exact same story that we saw with the WGA and SAG-AFTRA. I think like there could be no better example of two things. Of one, how the society's sort of mentality about labor struggles have changed dramatically in the past 10, 15 years. And how out of touch these CEOs, the head, like the managerial class is with its workers. the idea that you are blindsided by a 150,000 person union, right? Or 130,000. Like, I mean, the idea that you have no sense.
What is your job then?
Like you don't. Well, you're so like the all of a sudden the message becomes the medium. You're so out of touch.
Yeah.
And you have provided so little sharing with your workers of your success that it also is reflected in just how surprised you are at how pissed off they are at you.
And how he chooses not to even reflect on, like, oh, this would bankrupt the company if we, don't change our insane bonus structure that just allows us to reap all of the benefits there. Like, this is indicative just of what I was talking about at the start of the show, how these CEOs and the people at the top of these companies are completely in a different world with different incentives, with different ideas about how to run a company than with the people on the ground actually producing goods and producing the wealth, because they're not even thinking about that. That's why they were so out of touch, because they're responding to shareholders, they're responding to other wealthy people that they have to answer to. And so they just think that through force of money, power, influence, that they'll be able to break people. And it's just gotten to a point where that's not tenable anymore, which is a beautiful thing.
It's wild how, we saw this with Howard Schultz, how out of touch they can be, but this is from the Bloomberg piece. Farley was still hot about Fain's snub a day later. Bill Ford, the chairman of the company, like only the fourth person to lead the company since Henry Ford founded the industry, he was there, Farley said, and Sean didn't come. Like, just snubs like that. Like, first of all, to say he's like the fourth guy to lead the company, yeah, how did he do that? Be born into the family? Great job. Great accomplishment.
The other issue, and Fain has addressed this as well, the idea that a 5 to 10% component of your costs are labor, and that can bankrupt the company.
Better stop doing stock buybacks.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
There's no evidence that he provides at all. It's just, he just says that. He just says it.
Incidentally, GM was bankrupt, and our tax dollars bailed it out.
Yeah, and their workers, bailed
Seems
them
like
out.
you guys have a tough time with running this business functionally without it going bankrupt. So
We might need to look into that and take it over.
Yeah, not very efficient.